Victoria Sterling hadn't intended to accept a blind date, but her assistant's relentless persuasion eventually wore down her resistance until she conceded simply to silence the discussion. At 31, Victoria led Sterling Technologies with the same unwavering resolve that had sustained her through 2 years of intensive physical therapy following the automobile collision that necessitated her use of a wheelchair. The spinal trauma had transformed numerous aspects of her existence, yet her keen intellect and tactical acumen remained as powerful as they had always been. What the collision had altered was her faith that others could look beyond her disability to recognize the person she continued to be. Victoria had grown progressively withdrawn, partially due to the logistical obstacles of accessibility, but primarily because of the devastating realization that many individuals now noticed her wheelchair before acknowledging her identity. The arranged meeting had been orchestrated by her caring assistant Rebecca, who maintained that Victoria needed to resume her social activities. The booking was at Meridian, an exclusive establishment in the city center, where Victoria was scheduled to meet James Morrison, an attorney who allegedly enjoyed her passion for fine art and symphonic music. Victoria arrived exactly at the appointed hour, having telephoned in advance to confirm the establishment could accommodate her mobility device. She settled herself at the designated table and waited, occasionally glancing at her phone while surveying the sophisticated dining space surrounding her. 20 minutes beyond the agreed time, Victoria's device chimed with a text from her intended companion. "Sorry, something came up. Rain check." Victoria gazed at the message, experiencing a recognizable blend of mortification and defeat. She had anticipated this possibility when James encountered her wheelchair, yet maintaining hope had intensified the letdown. As she began preparing for departure, the server approached with evident worry. "Ma'am, will your guest be arriving this evening?" Victoria summoned a courteous expression. "Plans have changed," she responded simply. "May I please settle the bill for my beverage?" Before the server could answer, a gentleman approached their table with respectful hesitation. "Pardon me," he said, "but I couldn't avoid overhearing. Are you Victoria Sterling?" Victoria raised her gaze to observe a man in his early 30s with dark hair and compassionate eyes, dressed in denim and a collared shirt that indicated informal dinner arrangements rather than upscale dining. He seemed authentically troubled rather than meddlesome. "I'm David Chen," he went on. "Upon hearing your name, I suspected you might be the woman my sister Emma has been attempting to introduce me to. She provided a description and mentioned your presence here tonight." Victoria felt bewilderment supplant her shame. "Your sister?" David's demeanor became contrite. "Emma Chen. She's employed in your marketing division. She's been demanding for weeks that I meet her exceptional supervisor, but I continuously refused because I presumed you wouldn't consider dating a mechanic." Comprehension emerged for Victoria as she grasped what had transpired. Rebecca had coordinated one encounter while Emma had been attempting to arrange another, and both gentlemen had evidently appeared at the identical establishment. "So you're not James Morrison," Victoria observed. "And you weren't anticipating a mechanic," David responded with a humble smile. "I can appreciate if this isn't how you envision spending your evening." Victoria found herself examining David's features, observing the authentic warmth in his demeanor, and the complete lack of sympathy or uneasiness she had grown accustomed to expecting when people initially observed her wheelchair. "Actually," she said with the first sincere smile she had experienced in weeks, "this is the most intriguing occurrence I've encountered in months. Would you care to join me for dinner?" David's relief was unmistakable. "I would be delighted. Though I should mention that I'm unfamiliar with upscale establishments. I was considering suggesting the pizzeria down the block." Victoria chuckled, a sound that startled her with its naturalness. "That sounds ideal. Allow me to simply cancel this booking." During their pizza and relaxed dialogue, Victoria learned that David was entirely unlike the men she typically met within her professional sphere. He operated a modest automotive repair facility that focused on vintage vehicles, had funded his own technical education, and discussed his profession with authentic enthusiasm rather than monetary aspirations. More significantly, David regarded her wheelchair as merely another characteristic of her identity, comparable to having fair hair or wearing specific clothing. He posed thoughtful inquiries about her enterprise, related anecdotes about fascinating restoration endeavors, and somehow made Victoria feel like the most captivating individual present. When David revealed that he had modified his facility to ensure complete accessibility because one of his loyal clients used a wheelchair, Victoria recognized she was conversing with someone who understood inclusion as a concrete reality rather than an abstract principle. The evening extended far beyond their meal as they uncovered mutual interests in vintage cinema, travel experiences, and a remarkably compatible sense of humor. When David eventually escorted Victoria to her vehicle, she found herself unwilling to conclude their time together. "I hope this doesn't appear forward," David said as Victoria moved from her wheelchair to her driver's position. "But would you like to share dinner again tomorrow evening somewhere I can reasonably manage the expense?" Victoria regarded this man who had somehow enabled her to forget every justification she had persuaded herself that romance was unattainable. "You know what?" she said. "Why don't you prepare something for me? I'll provide dessert and wine." David's expression illuminated his entire countenance. "I believe Emma will be insufferably pleased with her matchmaking abilities."
The romance that evolved during the subsequent months astonished Victoria with its organic development. David demonstrated thoughtfulness, intelligence, and admirably candid communication about both his weaknesses and his capabilities. His working-class origins offered viewpoints that questioned Victoria's preconceptions, while her corporate expertise provided understanding that assisted David in growing his business. Most crucially, David never regarded Victoria's disability as something to conquer or disregard, but simply as one element of the extraordinary woman he was growing to love. He adjusted naturally to accessibility requirements while never making Victoria feel like an obligation or charitable cause. When Victoria eventually shared with David the story of the unsuccessful blind date that had brought about their encounter, he responded with sincere delight. "So James Morrison's discourtesy was actually the most fortunate thing that could have occurred," David said as they relaxed together on Victoria's accessible rooftop sanctuary, observing the urban illumination below. Victoria rested against David's shoulder, wondering at how natural physical intimacy had become with someone who viewed her as attractive rather than delicate. "That gentleman's mistake was certainly our fortune." They wed 18 months later in a celebration that honored their unique romance and their dedication to creating an inclusive existence together. Victoria's professional achievements enabled David to transform his shop into an educational facility for mechanics pursuing accessibility modification training, while David's practical wisdom helped Victoria recognize that the most meaningful accomplishments were frequently the most intimate ones. At their celebration, Emma delivered remarks about her successful matchmaking, while Rebecca acknowledged that her intended arrangement had been a catastrophe that resulted in something superior to anything that could have been planned. Years afterward, when Victoria addressed audiences at conferences regarding disability and corporate leadership, she would frequently observe that some of life's most profound connections occur when our initial intentions collapse and compel us to embrace possibilities we never contemplated. Sometimes the most transformative relationships begin not with ideal pairings or perfect situations, but with the bravery to remain receptive to unexpected compassion from individuals who recognize our value precisely as we exist. If this narrative resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more uplifting stories of unexpected romance and the strength of genuine connection.